The Ellis Talker Show. If you enjoy our content, please like or subscribe. I'm sorry I hit the button, but yes. Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Do you have things you want to get done around the house? Maybe some major projects? Check out K&H Construction. Chris Helms out of Waxahachie. He's a local guy. He'll take care of you. Let him know DV LeBron sent you. So my very special guest, Miss Reile, Miss Teresa Reile, who is a TED Talk speaker. She is a cancer survivor, an author. She's had like 50 businesses. She's had a storied life. And what I wanted to have her on is obviously my show. I love having people who have been through stuff and talk about it and how that's changed them. But also she discovered this thing called hypoxia, or not discovered, but she's championing this thing called hypoxia. And I know that in America, if you ask somebody, you walk around, you ask somebody, hey, how are you feeling today? Most of the time, somebody will say tired. You hear that often, especially my generation, Gen X, you're going to hear tired all the time, or it'll come out. And there might be some reasons behind that, but we will get into that. Miss Teresa Reile, how are you?
I'm doing great, DV. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for coming on. You know, I was reading your stuff, and I love people that have resilient lives. These major events in lives that it's unfortunate that you have to go through them, but they really do something special for you. So if you can kind of give a quick little intro and bio, and we'll kind of get into it.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I've had a lot of different companies with my ex-husband and by myself too. Like I've always been an entrepreneur my whole life. I very rarely ever worked for anyone else in my life. And I've always been a go-getter and, in other people's eyes, I guess, successful, you know what I mean? But for me, that was just my life, So, and then I had 3 kids and I was married to my husband. We were flying high. We were doing great. And then all of a sudden it wasn't great. And I find myself going through a divorce, very stressful divorce. And during that divorce, I got cancer. And it was really tough because I had 3 kids and I was now a single mom because he had moved out and I was raising them myself, and it was just a horrible time. And I ended up having an operation. They lost me on the operating table. They had to revive me. And I didn't realize it during the time, but they had nicked my intestine with the scalpel or whatever they were doing. And right after the operation, the recovery was horrible, but I kept telling the doctor, I'm having trouble with my digestion. It's really bad. I can't, go to the bathroom. It's like really bad. And he goes, oh, don't worry about it. That's just normal. And I'm like, no, it's not normal, right?
Everything is fine. Everything is fine.
Oh yeah, everything's fine. Just get out of here, right? And so a couple years after my operation, my intestines exploded. And I was at church. And all of a sudden, this horrible pain just drops me to the ground. And I didn't know what it was. It was just horrible. And they brought me to the emergency room. And the hospital left me in the emergency room for 14 hours. And a friend of mine came in and screamed at them and told them to get me into a room. They got me into a room. And then this doctor comes in. And he hardly spoke any English. I think he was from Nigeria. And he goes, hi, if you want me to operate on you, let me know. And I'm like, what? Like he didn't even examine me, nothing. And I said to the nurse, I said, since when do the doctors have the patients dictate to them what they're going to operate on, right? So I said, don't let him come back into my room. I want the best that you have. So luckily that guy was on call. He came in, looked at me. He's like, oh, my God, your intestine had exploded. We're going to try to save your life without operating on you. And lo and behold, they did. However, it was a month of being in the hospital with no food, no water, no painkillers, but tons and tons of antibiotics. And then they put this tube down my nose where my head was stuck like this for like 3 weeks. I couldn't move my head. And it was just a horrible experience. Oh my God. And then, wait, there's more, So they take the tube out of me one day and they say, now we have to go down and do a colonoscopy on you. And I'm like, okay. So I go down there and they're like, oh, we can't do that because when they nicked your colon, it made a stricture in your colon, which means a smaller opening, right? And so we have to do what's called a virtual colonoscopy. And I'm like, what is that? Oh, we take pictures. It's easy. So I'm like, oh, great. That'll be simple. It's just easy. And so, but it wasn't. They put me in this MRI machine and they wheel me in there and they do the picture and then they pull me out. And the doctor was watching on a big screen and she pulls out a hand drill and she's like, you have to be awake for this. And I go, what are you doing? She take a hand drill and starts drilling through my right buttock, my right butt cheek. And she had to drill all the way through so that she could get into the cavity of my abdomen to put a tube in there. Like, it was the most excruciating, horrific pain I'd ever.
It sounds barbaric.
It's horrible. It was so horrible. So they put this tube in, and then I had this like drain coming out of me for 6 weeks, and that was that, right? So I go home and I had to recover for 6 weeks after being there. It was just horrible. And then I get home. They finally get this out of me, and I'm okay, right? So I'm getting back to my life and, my marriage is over and I'm like, okay, I got to take care of my kids, blah, blah, blah. And I had to reinvent myself because I didn't have what I had with my husband, the businesses that we were running. So I was like, oh my God, I have to just totally reinvent myself. So I did that. I started another company and was doing well. But then in 2022, I got a phone call from a realtor and he goes, this is going to sound weird, but I know your house is not for sale, but there's a guy, a very qualified buyer that saw your house and he wants to buy it. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, he's very busy. He wants to come right now. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I got to clean it, whatever. He goes, no, he wants to come right now. He wants to buy this house. So he came over, saw it. It turned out to be a prominent guy. He gives me a cash offer, gave me 48 hours to decide. And I thought, take it or leave it. Yep. So I took it and I moved to Florida. But while I was packing all of my things, a friend of mine needed a place to stay. And so I sent him to my house. I had a small condo in Florida. So I said, oh, you can stay there for now. And I didn't really think about why he was in Florida or anything. But when I moved down to Florida, he was there at my condo. And I said, what are you doing here? And he said, well, my wife and I both had stage 4 hypoxia in the colon and prostate. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was talking about the C word, but he said we had hypoxia. And I go, well, what? And he said, well, hypoxia is lack of oxygen in your cell. And he said that is the basis of 90% of all disease. That's at the bottom of it. And I go, lack of oxygen in my cells underlies 90% of illness? He's like, yeah. And I said, well, what do you mean you had stage 4 hypoxia? That means you're pretty much dead. Go on.
I don't know. I didn't even understand. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I didn't know what all that was. So this person is telling you oxygen has a huge outsized role. And so you're coming into this. What are you learning as you're going through it?
So he's telling me, I mean, they got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, but what he realized was it's hypoxia. Okay. And so he said, I said, well, are you all right? And he goes, yeah, I'm totally fine. And he had tumors all over his body. He was just, not doing well. And so he's like, yeah, I'm fine. But my wife and I decided that we were going to totally handle our hypoxia. And so we did. And I said, well, how did you do that? And he said, well, there's this place where we went to in Europe where they just deal with hypoxia. And it's through drinking this oxygen and bathing in it. And I go, well, that's kind of crazy because I have been very sick and I would like to find out about it. So I got on a plane and I flew over there, and I had this thing on the bottom of my foot. I had a bump on the bottom of my foot, and I went into the bath and I bathed in it for 50 minutes. And I had, before that, I had gone to like all these doctors, my podiatrist, my chiropractor, my regular doctor,
I bet your medicine cabinet was extreme. Like there's pills for this, pill for that, pill for what this creates, pill for that, right?
Yeah, well, I never took a lot of medication because I never believed in it, but I believed in supplements and everything, so
Right.
I was always like really super healthy, health conscious. So my doctors are like, oh, don't worry about it. It's just a bump, right? So I went there, and 50 minutes later, that bump was gone. And I'm like, what? This is crazy. So I decided that I was going to learn more about this hypoxia stuff. And lo and behold, I became certified over there. I got trained by the guy that invented this technology. And he trained me. And now I decided that I wanted to bring it to the world. And so I brought it to the world. I brought it to America. And we are beginning to manufacture this stuff in the U.S. in about a month and a half. And so, yeah.
In the simplest terms, what is hypoxia, and, why should people care about what it does to you?
Hypoxia is lack of oxygen in your cells. Okay. Now, inside of each cell, you have trillions of them in your body. There's what's called mitochondria. And the mitochondria eat oxygen. It's what they live on. But the only oxygen that they can get to eat is what your bloodstream is providing. So you breathe in, and the mitochondria take what they can from the bloodstream. It goes through your lungs and then into the bloodstream, right? But because people sit around a lot now, they don't exercise, the toxins that are in the air, the toxins in the food, the water, and there's only 21% of pure oxygen in the air anymore, right? So it's like that's there used to be a lot more, but it's only 21% now. So we are all walking around with a deficit of oxygen, and we don't even know it. 70% of Americans have hypoxia, and they don't even know it. So your mitochondria eat oxygen. Now, they need voltage and oxygen. They're like the batteries of the cell. So think of it like a car. If you have a spark plug and no gas, the car's not going to go. But if you don't have the spark, but you have the gas, it's not going to start, right? So It's the same with your mitochondria. There's 8 steps in the mitochondria that are used to make energy for the body. And that energy is used to keep your immune system strong. So again, thinking of it like a car, if you have an 8-cylinder car and one of the cylinders goes, the car's going to not run so good. But then 2 go and it's like, 3 go, it's not running real well. It gets down to 4 and it's like, I better take it to the shop because my car is running like crap. That is when disease begins, when you're down to that 4th step and your mitochondria don't have enough oxygen and voltage to create the energy to keep your body healthy. There's an exact moment when disease begins, and it's when your mitochondria are deprived of oxygen by 35% over a period of 48 hours. So your mitochondria create the energy in the body. So one of the first signs of being hypoxic or not having enough oxygen is being tired or having fatigue. And I'm sure, you can all raise your hands. How many of you have had fatigue, like all of us, right? And so it's like your mitochondria aren't getting enough energy that they need. They're not getting enough food that they need to keep themselves healthy so that they can build your immune system. So this...
I'm sorry, tell me, other than tired, what are some of the other things that you've seen pop up in people with hypoxia?
Oh, God. Well, first I want to tell you, you can Google any disease, pick one, anyone, Google that disease and hypoxia. You will find a correlation all the time, every time. I've had the weirdest diseases that I've Googled, and they all come up with a correlation of hypoxia. Okay. So let's run down like just some of them, but there's millions more: asthma, anemia, bronchitis, breathlessness, cancer, COPD, coronary heart disease, diabetes, emphysema, fatigue, lung disease, rapid heart rate, sleep apnea, wheezing, pulmonary heart disease. I mean, the list is very long. And, you know, if you have something going on, Google it with hypoxia and see if there's a correlation, because there is, you know, at least 90% of the time there is.
Well, so, it's been established that, for those folks just listening, it has been established that sleep apnea, because you're deprived of oxygen, if you have congestive heart failure, it could actually kill you, or sleep apnea actually causes many things like high blood pressure and some other things. It does have such an effect on you. So this hypoxia thing, it makes sense. When it comes to the US, you know, everybody's very doctor driven, but I think that there's stuff outside of how they look at things that can help you. And so how is the US catching up to what you're doing? Is this something that's kind of spreading?
Oh, yeah. I mean, people are coming onto it. Like, I just want to be very clear, like, listen to your doctor. You know, I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor, because I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor. But what I am saying is, if your doctor is having you do something, adding oxygen to it is only going to help. It's not going to hurt. So, you know, this is not something to do in lieu of, but in addition to, right? So we're not advocating to go against your doctor's orders or anything like that. But we have had several doctors who are adding this in with their protocols, because they're finding that it's helping their patients. Right. And the doctors that really want to help their patients, they do it. They use it. So it's interesting. Like, this is not a medical product or anything. It's just, you know, oxygen's so important. You breathe it every day. That's why it's in the air. You have lungs and you have to breathe every minute of every day. Otherwise, you will die. That's how important oxygen is. And it's not being talked about. It's like blinking for some reason. You know, your body blinks. I don't know how many times a minute, but for some reason, we have to blink, right? For some reason, we have to breathe. And we just so happen to have to breathe oxygen, right? It's that important. So it's a very interesting subject that no one's talking about.
How did you, we know how you came up on hypoxia, your friend, and you know, taking that risk of going overseas, but what made you want to get this out to the world? What did you see in yourself and others doing this? Because I'm sure you're a skeptical person. I'm sure you look at things and you're like, hey, you know, we've had life experience. We're not going to get ran over, just real simple. So you went over there and you looked at this, and you probably had at first and saw the thing. So what led you to say, hey, I want to help people with this?
Yeah, well, what happened was, when I went over there, the doctor over there told me to get tests, a PET CT scan and some tests, blood tests, before I went there, and send it to him. So I did. And then when I got there, he's like, you know, he goes, I think you should be bathing in this every day and drink at least a bottle of this a day. And I'm like, okay. So I'm there for 2 weeks. I didn't feel anything, nothing, right? I keep going. I'm drinking the water. And all of a sudden, like 3 weeks into it, I started feeling really good with a lot of energy. And he sent me to get another PET CT scan and more blood tests. And I went into his office and he went over the test. Guess what? My terminal hypoxia was coming back. Okay, this time it was coming back in my colon. And he showed me the before and afters, and he said, it's gone. Your hypoxia is gone. And I was like, whoa. And so anyway, all the people that were there, okay, that had hypoxia were all getting better. I saw a guy that just had brain hypoxia. He had 7 tumors in his brain, and he just had an operation and chemo and all that stuff. He went there in a wheelchair, and 3 days later he was walking. And he said, if I didn't do this, I would be dead. And I've seen hypoxia in all different areas. Most of the people had their doctors sent them there for adjunct, extra oxygen therapy. And so it was very interesting. And one day I was sitting there and I was starting to feel really good. And a friend of mine was there with me, and he had a very rare form of hypoxia that was incurable. And he started feeling better, and he really was starting to feel better. And one day the doctor came out of his office and he said, oh, the water's ready, the drinking water. And the receptionist made a couple calls, and within an hour, there were lines around the block of cars and trucks lined up to fill up their cars with this water. And I'm sitting there thinking, whoa, this is like these people, wow. So it was at that moment. Yeah, it was at that moment that I decided, I need to help the people in America because, whatever they're doing, there's so many people living in pain, and, it just, if you have inflammation, you're hypoxic, there's so many people with inflammation and they're not getting better and they don't know what to do. And I don't know. I just know for me that it helped me, it just, that's what
I love that.
To do it.
I love that. You got that positive experience, because it sounds like you were getting hit pretty hard from every direction. And then, you beat this thing, and then, go and you find this, and this just adds to your life experience and then helps you in many ways. Now, you were talking about this water and you talked about bathing. Can you kind of help me understand in Barney style how you can bathe in oxygen or drink, or how does that consist of?
This is a proprietary process that turns water into very high stabilized content water. Okay. We don't add any oxygen to it. It's a proprietary process that just modifies the water. And we have tubs that have mechanisms in them that make this water that you bathe in. It's different than the drinking water because the bathing water is much more powerful and concentrated. So you can't drink the bathing water, but you can drink the drinking water.
Right. What test can people go to, or what test do you recommend for people to find out if they're hypoxic, if they're getting enough oxygen? What shows that?
Well, there's only one test that really shows that. We're not talking about the pulse oximeter that you put on your finger when you're in the hospital. That tests the blood oxygen level. There's a test that was developed in Europe, and it's now in the United States, but it's not quite validated yet. It's called the HIF1A test. It hasn't been totally validated yet, but we're hoping in about a month that will be ready in the United States, and then people can test and see how hypoxic they really are. So that's amazing.
What is the HIF1A? That's just a test?
It stands for the hypoxic inducible factor. Okay, 1 alpha. I don't know why they put the 1 alpha, but when your body becomes hypoxic, it produces a protein called HIF1. And that protein is like an alarm system to the body that says, oh, danger, danger, you're getting hypoxic. And so you're supposed to give your body oxygen at that point, but, that doesn't always happen.
You ended up writing a book. Is the book on this, or is it on another thing?
No, the book is all about my ordeal and how I found, basically what I went over with you, but in more graphic detail. It's called From Tumor to Triumph, My Oxygen Awakening. It's on Amazon. You can download it. It's an easy, super easy read. It's, I just want people to know about it.
And tell me how does somebody get this, this treatment, this supplement? How could somebody go about that?
Well, they can buy it from the website, patriox.us. It's patriox.us. And they can get it there. And like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing anything. It's just do it in addition to what you're doing, right? And it may help you. And I know it gets rid of, like when I'm tired, I just drink some of it and it perks me right back up. And, there's so many people that call and say, this has totally helped me. It's helped this, it's helped that, it's helped this, and I just really want to stress, I'm not a doctor. This, whatever I'm saying about this, entertainment purposes only, but it's do it in addition to what you're doing, and it may help you.
Well, the thing is that you've experienced it, and you yourself took it, and you saw what it did for you, and then you saw what it did for others, and decided that you wanted to try to get it out to as many people as possible. So if it had that effect on you, and you want to sell or, get it out to the world, then there must be something to it, right?
Oh, I know there is. I mean, I had a doctor call me the other day, and he is undergoing chemo and radiation right now. He's got cancer, but he called me the other day and he said, to be honest with you, this is really the only thing that's keeping me alive. He said, it's the only thing that's giving me energy and mitigating the effects of the chemo and radiation, and he said, it's really helping me. And he said, he used to be an emergency room doctor. And he said, if we could get oxygen to the cells, if we had this when I was an emergency room doctor, we could have saved every single patient. Oh. So, yeah, because oxygen is so, like, the first thing they do is put oxygen on you. That's the first thing they do. Bam, And so that's how important it is. That's how important oxygen is.
And it's different. You had said earlier that it's different from the oxygen the oxygen in your blood. What's the difference between the oxygen in your blood and in your mitochondrial, as you were saying?
Well, the oxygen in your blood has to go through the bloodstream, and it's the O2 molecule. Okay. But this oxygen is liquid. It's in liquid form. So it's permeable, and it can pass through the interstitial fluid, which is all the fluid inside your body and between your organs and stuff. And it can pass through all of that, and it can go where it's needed a lot faster than and more efficacious than the blood, because it has to go through your respiratory system and then into your bloodstream. You see, this you just drink and it just goes. It's immediately bioavailable, which means it just. Did I lose you?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't know what happened. It just went dead. That was so weird.
Yeah. I lost your visual and everything, so now it's just sound. I'm going to cut this part out, but.
Wow, this is weird. Here, I went inside. I don't know if it had something to do with the sun, but let me see. Okay, here I am. Yeah, okay.
So it has all these different effects, gets into your mitochondria, helps you with all these different things, because oxygen is life. There's so much different things that this oxygen does. You had you've had an amazing life where you've been dealt these blows. And just like a lot of guests that I've had on here, there's something special about people who've taken these blows. A lot of them that I've had on here decided that they wanted to make humanity better in some way, shape, or form. They wanted to help their fellow man. And that is a beautiful thing in a world that, maybe it's a little uglier and meaner. People like you that are going out there and trying to help. You found something, you said, you know what, this helped me. Let me see if I could help others. As I close out, what would you like to, tell my audience about this product and how to get a hold of you and contact?
Well, I want your audience really to understand that if they get a scary diagnosis from their doctor, it doesn't mean that it's a death sentence. And I would say research on your own, get multiple opinions, and just be steadfast in your resolve that you're going to get well, you know? And if you want to learn more about it, you can go to my personal website, teresareile.com. And it's my last name is spelled Reile, and it's Teresa without an H. Or you can go to patriox.us and you can get this incredible product yourself. I recommend that your audience drink. They just drink it every day. It's so easy. It's so easy. And you will start feeling more energetic. Like I drank it every day for 2 years, and then I went away for 2 months and I didn't have any, and boy, did I feel it. I felt like what I normally felt like before. And then I came back and I started drinking it again. I feel like I'm 20 years old. And so I just want your audience to know that there's hope out there. There's always hope. And I try to get back to everyone that contacts me. I try to do it as soon as possible, but there's a lot of people that contact me. But do your research and know that you can come through. If I came through what I went through, you can come through what you're going through for real. And your attitude is a big part of your recovery for real.
Absolutely. Teresa, thank you so much for coming on our show. Can you stick around real quick?
Yeah. Thanks, Stevie.